Anyone else think that this episode felt like 5 minutes? Like, it's so good to have that feeling in, even though it sucks. Like, it really sucks having that feeling too, because it's like, when you're watching a good anime, obviously you're wanting to continue watching it. You're wanting to have as much content as you can. You want it to last as long as you possibly can have it for. And when an episode feels 5 minutes, it basically is like, man, it felt so short. But in reality, it's just you were having such a good time. And it's good to have this feeling again. It's been a while since, I've felt this feeling since, the previous season of anime. And I'm glad to have this once again, where this episode really just did feel like it just flew on by. It was such a good episode from start to finish, with the mythology, to the character development, to just the characterization, to the naming of our main character, Fushi, and then we also have the stuff with March, the ending conclusion of the episode with the transformations, and kind of finding out more about the regenerative properties of our main male character. There's really so much about this episode that I love, so much good content, that it really just opens the door up for so many different paths that the series can take from this point onward. And so I guess the first thing I do want to talk about is especially that scene towards the end of the episode with the whole bear scene, the regenerative property scene, to the talking, just everything about it. So basically, we get a lot of, information about Fushi, our MC, and kind of how his evolutions are working, and what, is potentially going to happen in the future for him, and also how dangerous he is as an individual. So obviously, we knew since the very beginning of how dangerous he was. I mean, he could transform into other beings that died. We've seen this through the wolf to also the boy. But now that we see this, this episode, we can see that he, in fact, is not just stuck in one form. So example, when he obtained the boy's form, he isn't just stuck in that human form anymore. He can actually revert back to his wolf form, what he had previously, which is a huge advantage. What this basically means is that Fushi is capable of shape-shifting into literally anything he wants to be able to deal with any situation that is before him. But what makes this even more useful is that he is able to keep his sentience and his intelligence from his other forms, because we actually see the dog, or the wolf, within this episode, towards the end, he literally speaks through the dog's overall form. And obviously, we know how dogs are. Dogs or wolves should not be capable of that. They can kind of mimic, barking, yipping, and all that, but overall, they can't speak. They can't speak, the native tongue that all humans speak. So the point I'm trying to say is that for him to be able to even speak in dog form, it means that he is not lowering his sentience or his IQ or anything when he reverts to another form, because that was definitely something I wondered about. Example, if he went into the boy, like he became the boy, obviously, he's going to have the intelligence of a human being. But if he was to, let's say, revert back to the wolf, it makes you wonder if he would become more primal. Would he be someone that just acts like how a wolf would be, very Pacma-orientated, and would there really not be any other human intelligence left? And we actually get to see that that does carry over between the forms. So this is that's really huge for the character to see that level now of what he's capable of. But there's another thing. We get a little bit more insight to his regenerative properties and just how much he could regen at a given moment. Clearly, from what we saw is he is literally capable of regenerating pretty much instantly. He's kind of like Wolverine from X-Men, just continuously regenerating while he was fighting that giant bear at the end of the episode. And he outlived it not because he was stronger, but because he literally just had so much endurance and was able to keep healing. There was just nothing the bear can do. Eventually, the bear just straight up died, which is just ridiculous to think about. So that's just scary in and of itself, just the endurance and all of that. However, this leads to another question I have. If he is definitely capable now of shape-shifting and regenerating to that level, I wonder if he's able to transform different parts of his body. Example, I wonder if he's able to go into his human form, and then he's able to, let's say, transform one of his arms into, let's say, an animal, like a bear arm or a, wolf arm or whatever. I do wonder if he is actually capable of that, because that would be a very interesting showcase of his powers and shape-shifting capabilities to show he's an amalgamation of all sorts of different things that he has come in contact with. And I do wonder, since technically he was a rock at one given point, technically if he is capable of, let's say, changing different forms or parts of his body, body, he theoretically could turn maybe the outer layer of his skin into like a rock or something. That would be ridiculous. I'm really excited to see where that's gonna go. That's super, super fascinating to me. But, okay, so, with that out of the way, I guess let's talk about the elephant in the room, and that is, obviously, the bear and what's gonna happen next. So the bear was, I think everybody saw, very injured, and I really do wonder why the bear was so injured. It was bleeding before we even saw the fight go down at the end of the episode, and we saw it even bleeding, in the last episode of To Your Eternity. So we know for a fact the bear was already injured by something. We don't necessarily know what. I mean, we could take educated guesses. Maybe it fell improperly and it hit like trees and stuff and it impelled it, but we don't really know what caused it to be that level of injury, and I do wonder when we're going to find out about that and what really caused that, because clearly someone was able to do damage to this entity, because we saw multiple times throughout the episode when our characters shot arrows at the bear, it literally bounced off the bear because it was just so durable, so strong. So it kind of emphasized the fact, though, for this creature to be injured to that extent, something really strong must have gotten in a fight with it. So I do wonder if there might be another entity, just like our MC, the orb, or Fushi, that, has gained sentience and has become something rather ridiculous. We'll find out, I guess, eventually. So, the next thing I want to talk about is the potential what if, the future of the story, and what's going to happen next. Looking at everything that this episode presented with the whole ritual, the sacrifice, etc., you can kind of see that our individual character, the MC, Fushi, he's probably going to be revered as a god. It's very obvious that something like that's going to happen. When you look at an entity that is able to regenerate, literally like Wolverine, and is able to bring down this monstrous bear by itself and not die, all you can pretty much see at that point is like a living god. That's what people would think. I mean, if someone saw something like that in today's age, saw a creature continuously regenerating like that, people probably think the same thing. It's like a demon or a god or something. That's what someone would think. So it makes perfect sense why he's probably going to be ascended to maybe, let's say, godhood or something. Maybe he might become something like Inugami. I believe that's the name. Like, there's a famous wolf in Japanese mythology, and it's a dog. I think it's Inugami. I could be wrong. If I am, correct me in the comments below. But I feel like he might be revered as some form of god, and a shrine might be made for him or something like that. Or I could be entirely wrong, and he might just straight up decide to experiment on him, because at the end of the day, humans, they like doing stuff like that. They like to see how things work, and since we're following the natural course of how rituals and sacrifices were in the past, we obviously need to follow the true course of history to where people want to obtain immortality. It's definitely something that I think every human has thought about at least once in their life, about immortality, being able to live forever, etc. And so, when you see a creature that's able to be immortal and take human form, you might wonder if you're able to obtain its power. And I could definitely see maybe this being a major point in sometime in the future. Maybe not in the upcoming episodes, but maybe towards the end of the season or whatever. Maybe, there's going to be humans that capture him and try to experiment on him. Because that's the thing about immortality people don't know about, is that there is a lot worse things than death when it comes to, being immortal. And that is, basically not being able to die and being tortured for a long period of time to just see how far someone can actually push you. So I do wonder if that's going to appear in the series. I don't know if this series is dark enough to do it, but it does feel like it could go down that route. But who knows? But I feel like it's going to go two different directions. Or it might go both ways. It might go where, he's going to be revered as a god, but then you're going to have others that want to say, oh, it's not a god, we should experiment to see if we can do something like this as well. Anyways, let's, talk about March and everything else we got from the episode. So, March as a character, she survived, which, shocking. I figured she would have died in this episode, and the sister. I figured that they were just goners. I had that impression that they were just going to straight up die, which was going to lead to the evolutionary growth of our character, but that didn't happen, which I like that. I do like how it kind of tricked me with the vibes, the themes, the flags, and that they actually survived. I doubt this is going to be a reoccurring thing. I'm willing to bet you there's going to be some characters that we're going to care about and are going to just straight up die, but for the time being, though, I do appreciate that March didn't die, and that it seems like she's going to be around for a long time and probably be able to become an adult. It's just wonderful to see. But, yeah, overall, this week's episode of To Your Eternity is fantastic. Start to finish, felt like 5 minutes. Can't wait for more. I'm super pumped to actually see what will happen next. I'm so close to starting the manga. I cannot believe I held off, reading it for so long. I mean, I've already made it this far. I probably shouldn't read the manga, but it's just still ridiculous to me how good this series is. And I mean, it really is standing out as potentially the best anime of this anime season, easily. Like, it's so good. So I guess I'm gonna wrap it up there. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on how you feel about this series. This is the, third episode. So typically around this time, people either decide if they want to continue watching or drop the series. So are you gonna drop it or are you gonna continue watching it? Let me know in the comments below. If you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click that bell icon down below. That does help me out a lot. It allows you guys to see it in your, the feed on YouTube and get notified whenever I upload and all that. It helps out with the algorithm, etc. But with that, guys, be safe, stay healthy. Chibi out.